Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a Western astrologer and twin flame channel, and this is a video about the Sagittarius full moon taking place on June 11th at 3:43 a.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. Whew, really excited about this full moon. I made a very special announcement about what you can expect on this channel going forward. As this full moon has been, and several of the last lunations, super clarifying for me about some changes I need to make to the way I do the YouTube content. So definitely check out that Lightworker Energy update for that detail. June calendar sessions are available, but they're limited. I've been taking a step back to focus more on content creation and serving the communities I'm building. So book while they're available. There's only 2 days this month that I will be available to read. One is this Wednesday, one is the last Wednesday. So if you are in a community with me, you do have savings codes. Be sure to use them when you book, because I don't offer refunds for the difference after they are booked. The relationship synastry readings for one person are still available through July 10th, when Juno, the divine feminine here, comes out of retrograde motion and starts to turn direct. Hooray! So, if you would like to get a relationship synastry reading, you want to look at your chart, your person's chart, understand where things might be headed in the connection, why things seem to change this year, because there were some key reasons for that to happen, and where it's all going, now would be the time to book that. Okay. All right, so here is our full moon in Sagittarius, the sign that deals with truth and knowledge, with a trine to Chiron and Eris there in Aries and Mars here in Leo. All in all, this is a full moon that puts us on notice. Hey, where there's something in your life that's not working for you anymore, time to take action. Mars and Leo. Don't be a victim about it. Chiron and Eris, just notice the sensations. This isn't working for me. Honor the truth. Full moon in Sagittarius, and move. Okay. I love this for all of us collectively because it is creating an extraordinary amount of uh, the right kind of tension, good tension for moving our lives forward. Um, that I talked about the way this looks. It's a stepping stone moment. It's not an end result moment. So if there are changes and you're like, I don't like this change, this sucks, K Moon, don't worry about it. There's going to be more changes to come as we work through more lunations into the remaining 2020s. And I talk about that at the end of the Lightworker energy update for this lunation. Okay. That's the summary. Let's take a look at what both counterparts are doing as of this full moon. They are now both in water signs. So Juno has been in water sign Scorpio for some time. Jupiter has just joined the water sign party as of this full moon in Cancer. And this is significant when the two counterparts are in the same element. So if they're both in fire, or if they're both in water, they're both in air, etc., we do see harmonious flow of energy from one toward the other. This is what constitutes a union or communication window. This is more of a union window in many ways because the water signs are the way we process the world, and water deals with emotion. So we're processing the world. We're living through our understanding of the world. We're making sense of the world through our emotional templates. And so, with both divine masculine in Cancer, we have a extended stay. It's going to be a year. I'm going to talk about the details of this and what to expect in a moment here. But our divine masculine energy is coming into a openness to emotional truth. Masculine energies, we know, tend to operate more from logic. Feminine energies are known for their capacity to be heart-based or operate from the emotions, with a masculine energy and a very feminine sign, and not just any feminine sign, the emotional water sign of Cancer. It opens up the divine masculine energetic fields and templates to connecting with the heart space. With Juno here, we have her in Scorpio, and I've gone in depth about Juno in Scorpio with some of the partners I worked with back in January to give Juno and Scorpio updates. You can find some of that in the posts on this section. You can find it on their channels. The highlight, though, is that she is doing a deep excavational dive with her innermost self in order to really create a sense of deeper self-empowerment. And this comes with some, you could call it heavy. I like to call it transformational energies for her. And so there's a huge turning inward to both counterparts unfolding with this energy. And this energy really remains with us through um I want to say like around, I'll have to double check, but I believe November. I think Juno steps into fire sign Sagittarius then, and then these two are no longer in immediate harmony. And so this harmony between the two of them only heightens as we get into the latter part of July, August, September, October, the third quarter of the year. The harmony between them really heightens at that time. And I've spoken about this at length on this channel in the past, but if you're new here, because a friend sent this to you and it's like, here's what's going on. I want you in on the scoop with me so we can talk about it. Here's what you need to know. During these union, aka communication windows, the energy amplifying in this way between the counterparts, it operates magnetically. It pulls the two of you together. But if you have blocks that you aren't sure about to your union, it's going to run you into those blocks before to force you to break them down, to do what needs to be done to get them out of the way. So you'll feel the energy of your person, the emotions of your person, especially those of you who are empaths, very, very intensely throughout this period of time. It's going to be really, I can't say this enough, critical to have some discernment about what's yours and what's a projection and what's a distortion of your empathic energy coming through because of your own templates. Because sometimes we can think we are empathing another person only for it to not quite be the true nature or flavor of their experience, but instead be a coloring or a shade of their experience that's come through the filter of some of our own pain or some of our own process or our own paradigms of our own past. It's impossible to be free of those filters until we are free of a body, we're free of a memory. Then and only then can we be completely free of those filters. Now, we can neutralize those filters and work toward neutralization, but they never really go away until you leave the lifetime. So just keep that in mind before you get overstimulated by anything you might be feeling from your counterpart. For those of you who are very sensitive, that some of this will be an opportunity for you to strengthen your capacity for discernment, to strengthen your capacity for emotional and spiritual boundary work. It'll be an opportunity for you to really get into differentiation around what's yours and letting the other person work on what's theirs because they can and they will. They had spiritual guidance before you, they've got it now. And if you were to be taken off the playing board, they'd still have spiritual guidance. So, this for those of you who tend to get sucked in by emotionality and the connection, fair warning. This is your opportunity for that emotional and spiritual and psycho-spiritual growth to be able to handle the connection without drowning in it. Okay? All right. Let's get into some specifics. I love to start with Juno first. If you've been on this channel for a while, you know that. So here we go. Here's Juno. She is retrograde. She was retrograde starting, she entered the retrograde zone, let's see, December 21st of last year. So solstice of 2024 is when themes started to appear. She began retrograde on March 19th, and that was back around the time I opened the relationship readings for one person again. So again, you want a book, you know where to do it. These will remain open until July 10th when she goes direct. And the shadow ends. She goes out of the retrograde zone completely October 5th. So, my apologies. It's October 5th. That is when the two counterparts will no longer be in harmonious signs. Okay. But the height of the harmony is really going to be in the third quarter of this year. Okay. So, her being in Scorpio is a journey of excavating and upgrading all things that Scorpio governs in our lives collectively. We get financial health issues that need to be dealt with that can come up now. So, debt, credit, loans, taxes, inheritances, investments, all of the things that secure our financial future or compromise it, all of the things that document in official ways our financial past and could be compromising our now. Scorpio governs these things. So, for many, changes on this front, especially when it comes to either being in partnership or being ready for partnership, will come up. And so, if you've got, tax liens against joint property that you own with an ex-spouse, for instance, or if you have some format of, joint financial arrangement that leaves you completely financially dependent on an ex and you're not financially free to handle and step into things with your counterpart. For others of you, this is like financial entanglement with family, and really kind of being that mother figure, that provider in many ways to your family. These issues can come up for reckoning while Juno is retrograde. Okay. So things like being, here's another example, being notified that there could be some outstanding or unknown debt to you that's now due and needing to create a plan for it, suddenly getting an inheritance that can change your life, losing all of your investments all of a sudden, gaining investments back just as suddenly toward Juno coming out of the shadow period of retrograde in September, October. If you've been undersaved for your future, you might get a wake-up call about this. If you're ready to retire, drawing down on your investments or cashing in on investments suddenly in a way that you may not have been expecting. All of this is part of the process. The suddenness of this has a lot to do with Uranus in communication with Juno by opposition. Uranus governs surprises, divine movement, that's quantum movement. It skips steps, it's nonlinear. It seems like it doesn't make sense until you're fully on the other side. Yeah, that's Uranus. And Juno speaking to Uranus, both of them in signs that have to do with our money. Taurus dealing with money we earn. All of the money outside of that, money saved, money owed, things of that nature. And Juno brings in the joint finances part. These sorts of things are going to come up to be dealt with. Now, especially if what you've been wanting and hoping for is marriage with a person who's your divine counterpart. If you know that you like want, depending upon the terms of certain types of debt, if something were to happen to you, let's say you get sick or you exit the planet, your spouse could become legally responsible for paying off that debt. And so really entering into like a full partnership, not just a love match, but one where we can buy a house or buy land and do mission work, or we can own a car, these sorts of things to, or travel together. These sorts of things can really get hampered by state involvement, government involvement when it comes to the way debt is handled and managed. And so some of these things coming up now is a function of preparing you to be fully free and fully ready to step into partnership as not just a heart partner, but a financial partner in the third dimension. Okay, so it's a very maturing. Okay. And like I said, if you've got entanglement elsewhere, if you're already a financial partner to somebody else, it can be really hard to step into financial partnership with somebody new. This energy is really trying to, and that's the energy of Uranus, liberate you from those strings attached. Okay. Those financial ties. So, Scorpio also deals with our deeper relationship to power and the emotions we have to face to wield it well. So, we're talking about shame, fear, and rage. If these emotions have been repressed, this retrograde window might see them bursting forth, demanding attention as they point to areas of our lives where it's time to pick up and own our power. These emotions may show themselves before an upgrade in our lives to personal power in the situation that those emotions are linked to. So if they do show up, know that it's not an accident. It's Juno trying to say, hey, in order to really be in partnership with your person, it is necessary for you to hold your own power. And what's standing in between you and your power is your shame about X, about Y, or about Z from your past, or your fears about A, B, and C, about your present and future, or your rage about this or that or the other thing, past or present. All of these things can stop us from holding power and using it wisely, judiciously, fairly for ourselves and for others. And in order to do that with power, this particular retrograde Juno in Scorpio will say, tap us on the shoulder. Hey, 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 I need you to deal with this so that your partnership doesn't become compromised by your inability to hold your own power. Okay. So this is good stuff. Juno wants to help us uplevel our ability to own our lives, especially if we know that our body has a habit of being a storage facility for emotions that we haven't had time to deal with yet, or emotions that have been spiritually bypassed. Like, oh, I don't need to deal with these. I can meditate this away. Or as long as I keep getting readings, I don't have to face this because I can just, know what's going on, and I don't have to deal with the fact that I feel things. I can just know things. Juno will say, not so fast. I'm going to need you to find your way through this because this is actually disempowering for you. Okay. Um, Now, some of these feelings, the shame, the fear, and the rage, these things may show up as symptoms associated with the next thing that Scorpio governs, and that is reproductive health issues that need to be dealt with. Those can come up now. All things related to fertility, hormones, etc. These things can show up. Now, in traditional Chinese medicine, the reproductive organs are governed by the kidneys in particular. So, all things related to the kidneys and urogenital health, kidneys and bladder system, can come up now for needing health attention. The kidneys are also the governor of the emotions, shame, guilt, and worry in traditional Chinese medicine. And Scorpio itself deals with the emotions of fear and power. So, all of the things related to these issues in our lives will come up for examination and rectification throughout the Juno retrograde and post retrograde shadow period. Again, the dates for that are July 10th, October 5th, when retrograde shadow ends. That's that after period. But what I will say is that if any of these sorts of things have come up, and in particular, unusual things, Uranus, again, speaking to Juno, Uranus governs the unusual, the different, the uncanny, the out of nowhere, the out of the blue. There could be a linkage to some of these emotions that I just mentioned. So it'll be really important, especially with regard to your partnership. This is a bit of a purge, and it's coming up so that it can come out. If there have been these repressed emotions, there's also repressed power. And if it's showing up symptomatically, from the body, it's because the emotions didn't get your attention the first time. So the linkage here is you'll feel the emotion. When the emotion isn't honored to get us to course correct, the body will give the stronger signal to get us to pay attention. So all of my shadow workers, all of the people who, really help with the coming back into that second chakra space. This is your time to shine. People will be looking for you. Make sure you're findable in the places where people need help. As we move through this time period, it'll be important not to ignore any symptoms that come up, but also not to overly pathologize it either. Our bodies will speak as loudly as our consciousness requires to get our attention in a way that causes new choices, both personally and collectively. God really built our systems and our systems communication with, collective lifestyle trends and consciousness in a very elegant feedback loop. So, whatever symptoms may show up throughout this Juno retrograde period, they're trying to get our attention to help us use our creative second chakra energy in more aligned ways because we're not the same person we were pre 2020. Since then, there have been significant changes for all of us collectively in who we are as individuals and a call for us to operate at higher levels of consciousness. As I mentioned in the Lightworker Energy Update, this is part of a collective shift toward where we each need to be in the next chapter of Earth's unfoldments, and it's happening one step at a time. So trust your process, as it will be unique and personal, not just for you, but also for your union. You're not a victim here. There's just opportunities to make new choices always arising. This is one of them. So give yourself that space, that freedom, that sigh of permission and relief. Okay, my body's talking. I'm hearing my body. I'm choosing to listen and lean into what your body's trying to say. Most of this work is taking place, well, all of it is taking place in the divine feminine energy fields because that's where she is. Juno is in Scorpio. Those who identify as exclusively divine feminine and never really identify with the divine masculine energy updates on this channel personally, you are going to feel this transmutational journey the most heavily. And yeah, it's a lot. So take it slow. Focus on what your body's trying to tell you. Follow the guidance of your healthcare professionals if anything has come up. And as needed, get complementary medicine support with an acupuncturist, herbalist, Mayan abdominal massage therapist, Reiki practitioner, energy healer, etc. Those of you here on this channel, you know how much I love Lana. She does great distance healing work. Check out her work. Find what works for you. I also really love in this arena Kim Anami, Layla Martin, Regina Thomas Hauer, aka Mama Gina. If you're feeling like, what is she talking about? Just Google those names. Them ladies will get you right and tight in all the ways, okay? They're great resources for you at this time. Now, if you have repressed your divine feminine energy and operated mainly from divine masculine energy, mostly, again, you're going to feel this energy very heavily as well. This is the type of divine feminine energy that will not be ignored and demands balance with her counterpart energy internally before there can be any balance externally. Inner balance and union is the foundation for external balance and union. Those who can recognize your inner DF and DM energies and have been balancing these two energies for years, you're going to find that this energy way less intense. This can play out too many different ways to name for whether you identify in some format of union or some format of separation. So rather than go into any more details, I'll encourage you to book a reading when you're ready for guidance on this and honor your journey, making the needed changes as you're prompted. And if you need that little bit of extra encouragement, especially if you're in separation, that your counterpart's doing their work too, we can take a peek at their chart, see how what invitations the planets are issuing to them, so that you can see the mirror and get to work on accelerating the process here. Okay. Now, let's take a look at, and there are those of you who want to do the 90-minute two-person reading, so you and your person come together. That's available as well, but that is for two people. The 60-minute is for one person. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the sextile to Mars in Leo that she's making. So here she is. She's speaking to Mars in Leo. That thing about balancing your inner masculine energy with your inner feminine energy that I was just talking about, this transit's going to help with that. Juno, the divine feminine, is in harmonious contact with Mars, the human masculine energy. This is going to help you handle business in the 3D as needed to support your divine feminine energy. Mars is an action taking energy. So, where action needs to be taken, you're going to be inclined to take it. Another interpretation is harmony for the divine feminine energy with a soulmate type of person. So if you've got, a baby daddy that you need to balance things out with who's not your counterpart, or an ex-spouse you need to figure out some finances with, or you feel like you're ready to take a journey with someone who's not your counterpart at all, this astrological connection between Mars and Juno will absolutely support that for a time. Another interpretation here is that this can be taking initiative and leadership in your connection to bring things between you and your counterpart to a healthier ground for both interior divine feminine energies. Now, for some, that will look like coming closer together. For others, that may look like taking a break and all manner of things in between. The key theme here is taking initiative. That's Mars to support the divine feminine energy between both people. And we all have both energies, goes without saying. We see Juno is in square to a configuration up here called Chariklo conjunct Pallas. Chariklo's on the left, Pallas Athena's on the right, or Chariklo's on the right, Pallas Athena's on the left. This can feel like our internal self-protection. Pallas and external divine protection, that's Chariklo, are more challenging to access. The purpose being so that if there are the shadow, that's Scorpio over here, that we need to see for what they are, important parts that need reintegration and healing. We have the time to do that. Again, this full moon is in Sagittarius, which is a sign of truth. So that if we've been running a spiritual bypass on ourselves to not have to look at difficult truths in the connection, this full moon is going to make sure that stops so we can take the initiative to make needed changes in ourselves and in connection. Another interpretation here is that if we've been accessing our divine protection in a very specific way, we may need to explore a new pathway, something different and perhaps communal. If we've been on a solo practitioner journey, that's the Aquarius part. Aquarius is a sign that deals with communities and groups. This may be the call to step into some sort of community spiritual path. Okay. And this combo speaks to needing to take a unique and new pathway in the way we access our spiritual protections, something unlike anything we've done before. So something out of the blocks, so out of the box. So if you've previously, you know, never got into communication with the angels, you may start that now. If you were never a churchgoer, you may find that that resonates for you now. You may find the right church, the right community, the right people. If you were a solo practitioner of the Wiccan pathways, you may find a coven now that really speaks to who you are and can really hold the totality of your selfhood and growth at this time. Okay. You may join a Reiki circle, etc. Find the pathway that leads you back to your own divinity, allows you space to really deal with this interior, deeper work that Juno and Scorpio is being guided to do, and supports you taking action rather than being idle when it comes to owning your life. You really are looking for a group that isn't just about processing and connection, but also about connection in action and growth here. Okay. And that's what this configuration speaks to. So we also see a square in opposition to Uranus. So Uranus is in the mix. And this adds emphasis to the unique and never done before pathways for evolution and growth. Uranus wants to do something completely new and different, completely out of the box, especially when it comes to our self care and the sign of self value, self worth, and self esteem. Taurus, that self love sign. One interpretation here is the previously mentioned reproductive health challenges could have come suddenly out of nowhere and caused a bit of upheaval and chaos in your life. There's an interpretation here that speaks to unpredictable action arising from within you to better align with how your DF energy has evolved. So, an example of this is for me, like I have to change the format of what I'm doing it work wise to better value what I offer, my energy, and the community that's ready to work deeper with the astrology. Now, this may have felt unpredictable to some, but for those of you who have been regulars with me on this channel and in one on one readings, you already know this has been a long time coming. For you, it could be this kind of change as well. Something that values your divine feminine energy at this time in new ways that it's time to align with in the work, family, friendship, romantic partnership, patterns with money, habits, health sectors of your life. It's going to be different for all of us. Another is an about face. Another interpretation here is that there could be an about face or a change in your connection between runner and chaser. If those labels apply to you and your person, the runner could become the chaser can become the runner, that sort of thing, or a change for those who identify in some format of union in the way money works between the two of you. Perhaps there's a switch in the breadwinner and lifestyle manager of the couple. There could be a total switch up in what you're saving for and working toward financially, this sort of thing. So there's some examples of the way Juno's energy can play out here. Now, if you'd like some support navigating how this is playing out for you and your connection, The one person twin flame readings are still available, but only through July 10th. And that availability is limited. There are 3 days that I have available for reading between now and then. So, and one of them is already slightly booked up, it's halfway there. So if you'd like to book, I strongly recommend you lock it in to better understand how to navigate the changes, what to expect in your connection, especially as we go into the second half of the year. Like I mentioned, there's this really lovely union window that's just starting to open up between the counterparts. I'd love for you to know how to work with it personally and how to work with it in your connection so that you can move the connection forward, especially if it's felt stuck. Okay, let's talk about Jupiter in Cancer. It's a bit of a longer update today, so because I'm going to go into detail about this, and hopefully this rich detail is something you'll be able to come back to so that you know, okay, this is what this is going to be about long term. Now, this is the beginning of a 1 year journey for the divine masculine energy in the sign that's all about families, mothers, and motherhood, emotional truths, emotional wholeness, emotional integrity, and deep emotional bonds. There are so many interpretations for this, but here are some of the headlines. For all divine feminine, divine masculine, body type, whatever, gender, identification. It's all the people who identify as a divine counterpart because we all have divine masculine energy. So for all of us, this is going to represent reconnecting with our true emotions and feelings in the connection and those coming to the forefront in unignorable ways. So whether your deepest emotion in the connection is unconditional love, resentment and bitterness, grief, apathy, or absolute joy, these things will now surface for you to learn how to work with in aligned ways in the connection. For all, this will also encourage us to move beyond learning attachment styles as a quote, this is how you work with me because I'm fill in the blank attachment style. So that means I need you to XYZ to accommodate me. Moving out of that way of working with attachment styles and into learning how to finally become secure and fully free of the label. Okay, so that's a big deal and a big step. Most people just know their attachment style. They have no idea how to get secure. This is the journey toward learning how to become secure, authentic, and real with your emotions and also with yourself first. This is also for all of us where there are emotional blockages in the self and the counterpart. These can get amplified and exaggerated before they are addressed, which might be what you or your person need in order to see it and fully face it once and for all. So don't worry if this happens before there is resolution. There's a whole year to work this through. You've got time. Now, let me get into the for some. For some, this may be where a family expands or family healing and reconciliation takes place. Now, if you've had any sort of parental alienation going on, estrangement with your kids, estrangement from your own parents, this year may be the year where that healing really starts to unfold. If you've wanted to become a parent and share your love with a child or children this year, there's support from the stars for the collective for that. If you've wanted to reconcile with the other parent of one of your existing children, again, there's support from the stars for this. Now, for those of you who have occupied mainly divine masculine energy, the divine masculine's movement through the feminine water sign of Cancer may make it difficult to operate using masculine logic systems and linear thinking systems as the emotion-driven sign of Cancer places a demand in the divine masculine fields to focus on feminine pathways of knowing. Feminine pathways of knowing, including the intuition or trusting the emotional body, these sorts of things. Now, for those who have repressed their divine masculine energy and only operated in feminine energy, this abundance of feminine energy with no masculine balance internally can make it feel a bit like getting emotionally flooded. It's going to require you finding your interior connection to your own masculine energy, human and divine, to host a stable container to ground and support this energy in your system. This harkens back to what I said at the beginning. Beautiful season for discernment, spiritual boundaries, owning your stuff, not letting yourself just get flooded with other people's stuff, learning how to be a broadcaster of emotional signal as an empath, not just a receiver of emotional signal as an empath. Again, God's stars here are always supporting us coming into balance with ourself and our own evolution. And I love to see it. This is what you can expect in the 1 year journey of Jupiter moving through water sign Cancer. Okay, some of the key themes. Now, as this move is taking place, right at the beginning is this Sagittarius full moon, we see the following aspects to Jupiter. We see Jupiter conjunct Mercury in Cancer. Now, this opens up communication of an emotional nature. This can be about big feelings, the hard ones, and the loving kindness ones, but the lines of communication open with this energy. So, if you have something that needs to be said, you may find it hard not to say it at this time. We also see a Venus sextile to Jupiter here. This makes for really good alignment between feelings in the body and emotions in the heart. It also makes for harmony between people. Lots of opportunities to get on the same page with someone you love with honest communication. Since this will come through your divine masculine energy fields more than the divine feminine fields, they are more action oriented at this time. It will be important to connect with yourself and your own truth before trying to share it with another, because that could go sideways really quickly. It's like all of the inside thoughts coming out when some of them might have been better off inside until you were clear about your intention, what you meant. Because once things are said, they can't always be unsaid. You can work back to clarity, but that can be more of a process than it has to be if you don't start from clarity. So it's okay. It's not a big deal, especially if both people have a lot of communication capacity between them. Great time for it. But if you know there can be limitations in that, this energy can open up the emotional floodgates and you can become place for emotional dumping ground. The word trauma dumping comes to mind here, this sort of thing. Um, all of that. And so really, really good time to get a therapist, talk to a coach, speak to a spiritual mentor, spiritual guidance, so that you can really work through the finer emotions that are coming up and their nuances and dig underneath to get to the truth and then have necessary conversations if you know conversations can be touchy between you and your person. If you're both extremely and exceedingly sensitive to one another, which can happen with both counterparts in water signs. If you know that's the case, this is a good time to talk it through. I wouldn't say a friend. I would, like I said, I would say like get guidance from, you know, like I said, a therapist, somebody like that who can really help you parse if you're and get to nuance if emotional flooding becomes a challenge here. I've already heard from certain people that sort of like emotional flooding thing and then trying to have communication. I've already heard from people that that has started to show itself in this energy, and that can be a bit of a challenge to work through. It can be worked through, it's just more challenging than it has to be. Although it's good for intimacy, but you can still get intimacy with clarity as well through vulnerability. Okay. Um, Nadia Shaw likes to say this. Uh, she talks about there are certain configurations in the sky from time to time that can really open up the emotional and communication floodgates simultaneously. And she's one of my astrological mentors. She says, like especially if you're trying to date or meet someone, it's important to remember that person's not your therapist. Um, and to get appropriate help in appropriate places. Okay. All right. We also see Jupiter in square to Saturn and Neptune. And this right here is saving it. This is going to help us collectively face any emotional avoidance challenges in a beautiful way. Now, the combo of Saturn and Nessus, both flanking, let me redraw this so you can see Nessus in the mix. Here's Nessus right there. There's Saturn. Here's Neptune. And that horseshoe is the north node. But that configuration right here about Nessus and Neptune flanking Saturn will generate a demand for wholeness and not letting our emotions get the best of us. It'll allow us to purge and then release. Whether that means putting a cap on lashing out and extreme emotional volatility, because that's a type of emotional avoidance, or avoiding emotions altogether, clocking out, going numb, right? Trying to video game our way through it. This combo will make it easier to begin to face the root of any emotional challenges, whether that's wanting someone else to save us from our own emotions and reality, or wanting to bury our emotions so we don't have to deal with our realities. This energy will mature us for sure. We also see Jupiter trine Haumea and Vesta in Scorpio. Now here's Haumea, our creation goddess, and there's Vesta right there. And there's something called the part of fortune between them. Haumea and Vesta are speaking to Jupiter as well. Now together they bring a commitment, that's Vesta, and creativity, Haumea, to the divine masculine energy fields. In Scorpio, this creativity is typically about financial investments or taxes, loans, inheritances, paying off debt. It's about shadow work, it's commitment to physical intimacy, this sort of thing. In retrograde, we're inspired to go even deeper and find truly creative solutions to our challenges. But in some cases where this energy has been misused in the past to escape needing to deal with our challenges, like I'm just going to come up with a creative solution to evade having to pay taxes and then double down on it. If that's been the case, we can see the creativity of Homea withheld as right relationships to all that Cancer, where Jupiter sits, and Scorpio, where they sit, is restored. So this will be a really good thing for us, although it might be very challenging at first. Okay. Now, there is a trine here as well from Jupiter to Pallas and Chariklo. Once again, this is the only energy in common between Juno and Jupiter. These two are still in Aquarius. They're also moving retrograde, and together they bring an energy of spiritual protection to the divine masculine energetic fields. This will help as a deeper emotionality opens up for more linear masculine consciousness. So, just as the divine masculine energy starts to get more personally vulnerable with self, Cheroklo and Pallas step in as a mechanism for protection and say it's safe to open this Pandora's box up. I've got you. Okay, this is also an energy of guardian angels appearing in human disguise in Aquarius, so perhaps even getting help or support from unexpected human sources as this energy continues to unfold in the divine masculine fields. What I love about a planet entering a new sign like this, any of these sort of planets that transit for longer than 1 year, and Jupiter is a 1 year transit almost exactly each time. What I love about the kickoff moments is that they tell us a lot about what the entire period can be about, what sort of themes we're going to encounter. And what this tells me in its entirety about the divine masculine's journey and the divine feminine's journey at this time going forward is that there are changes that are unfolding that will help rebalance the connection on the whole. We classically perceive the divine feminine energy to feel like she has the weight of the connection on her shoulders. Not anymore. This period is going to create some liberation as she returns to self focus on core issues and needs that can no longer be ignored. We classically perceive the divine masculine energy to be aloof or not able to perceive the connection. Again, not anymore, with so much emotional depth coming into the divine masculine space as he moves into Cancer. We see a lovely energy of softening to the connection, becoming more available to the connection. Again, gentle reminder, these aren't about genders or parts. These are about energies. So this can play out in all connections in any manner of ways, regardless of gender or sexual identity. The only thing that can stop it is us avoiding it with our own desire to stay the same. All life is change. And with that being said, if you'd like to make your journey easier by understanding how this plays out in a more personalized way, the thing to do is book a reading with me over at kmoonastro.com. The link is below this video. Availability is limited this month, so be sure to book ASAP to secure your spot. Can't wait to chat with you. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and take great care. Bye for now.